Good afternoon and welcome to Stephen's Life on It. I'm Danny Kelly.
And I'm Leslie Nielsen. We begin our broadcast with regrettable news. Deaths come in threes, and that definitely held true this week. On It's Colby Elliott has the details. Colby?
Heartbroken to learn of the deaths of three notable figures. The fashion industry lost an extraordinary fashion designer, Lilly Pulitzer. Pulitzer was known for her tropical print dresses and uniform looks for the elite. She died in her home in Florida at the age of 81. Former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Margaret Thatcher, died on April 8th. She was the first female Prime Minister of the country, serving as its conservative leader during the 1980s. Her funeral has been set for April 17th at St. Paul's Cathedral in London. The funeral will be open to the public, but will be followed by a private cremation. She was 87. Famed movie critic Robert Ebert passed away this week. He was 70. He survived a long battle with cancer and often discussed his disease and treatment via Twitter, sharing sometimes shocking photos of his face after surgeries removed portions of it. Eventually, he had to communicate through a computer program that said what he typed. His wife, Chaz Ebert, survives him.
Nation mourns, our hearts go out to their families and loved ones.
Even though I'm not into Lily Prince, I still admire her for her business strategies and ambition.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of Pulitzer's work, and I'm so proud to carry on her legacy.
When we return after this short break, we will recap the same-sex marriage debate.
Welcome back. The struggle to find common ground in the same-sex marriage debate is still underway. While many states have come down on one of the issues or another, the United States is examining the big question in the Supreme Court. Should the federal government recognize same-sex marriage as legal? To recap, same-sex marriages emerged in the 90s when states began to question whether their constitutions allowed homosexuals to wed. According to the Political Guide, Congress passed the Defense of Marriage Act in 1996, also referred to as DOMA, stating that no state could recognize same-sex marriage as equal and defining marriage as between a man and a woman for the purposes of federal laws, such as receiving Social Security benefits and filing income tax. In 2004, the Massachusetts Supreme Court began to issue same-sex marriage certificates. Similarly, in 2005, Connecticut created civil unions that gave equal rights to same-sex couples before the law, though without the religious aspect. Later in 2009, Vermont and New Hampshire passed same-sex marriage laws, with New York to follow in 2011. Iowa's state constitution prohibits the ban on same-sex marriage laws, and the court allowed same-sex marriages to take place, making 6 the total number of states where same-sex marriage is legal. Many states are still not on board with the idea of same-sex union. However, there are still states that are progressing to that idea. In previous months, protesters from both sides picketed their hometowns to have their voices heard. Recently, many public officials and celebrities are stating either they support or do not support same-sex marriages. Still, no final decision from the federal level has been made. Arguments were made before the Supreme Court in March, but the ruling will not be available until this summer. Hopefully, that will clarify where this issue is headed for the rest of the country.
It looks like our government is in a bit of a bind, considering they are also dealing with the sequester. On It's Lane Wallace has the update. Lane?
Thanks, Leslie. Taking effect March 1st, the sequester of the federal budget has many students across the country worried about paying for college. The sequester, or permanent cancellation of budgetary resources, applies to all programs within a budget account. This is part of the Budget Control Act of 2011. Originally, the sequester was a threat to force a joint select committee on deficit reduction to replace the act with a bipartisan plan to cut $1.5 trillion over a 10-year period. The committee failed to compromise, so the sequester, described by some as a nuclear option, has gone into effect. Students are now just some of those paying for it. 70,000 underprivileged students will see a $49 million cut from federal work-study grants, and there will be a $37 million cut from students with exceptional financial need. These cuts will raise the cost of borrowing for students by almost 8%. While cuts for the 2013-2014 school year are still uncertain, check with Stevens Department of Financial Aid to see how the sequester might affect your allotment.
Thanks, Lane. What a rich and compelling story. You know, I'm not looking forward to filling out tax forms, paying bills, and dealing with the stresses of money after graduation.
Those taxes sure get the best of us sometimes, don't they?
Yeah, you know, they sure do, but you can look great on a budget by following these tips to get rich and colorful lips while filling out tax forms. On its Tyler Polshin shares how to make your lips fabulous. Tyler?
Hey, thanks guys. As of March 20th, spring has officially sprung, and it's time to put away the neutrals and introduce more color. Though budgets may be crunched, there are affordable ways to incorporate color into your wardrobe without spending money on brand new clothes. Using lipstick for a pop of color is all you really need. Just head over to your local Walmart or drugstore and see what you can find. 2013's top color lipsticks are orange, coral, red, and rose, and also tomato. Affordable brands that carry these colors are CoverGirl, L'Oreal, Revlon, and many more. Just go over to the beauty counter and ask about these colors to refresh your wardrobe without spending a fortune. I'm Tyler Polson with Olivia Odell's Beauty Tip of the Week. Back to you at the news desk.
Thanks, Tyler. Love all those colors. I've never been a lipstick gal myself, but I might have to try them out.
Same here. We now move to news more locally. The Stevens Stars have been making great strides this season. With the 2012-2013 softball season winding down, there is still hope for the team to make it into the regional conference. First-year head coach Killian Kramer has put a lot of effort and heart into every practice and game so far. Even though the record doesn't show it with being 3-16, the softball team is working hard in every game, showing signs of definitely good improvement. But this season has brought some injuries, and that has truly put a damper on the number of players who can play. One injury specifically has taken one of our two pitchers, junior Emily Park, out for a while. With this injury, senior pitcher Brooke Warren has truly stepped up and has shown what true courage and persistence is on the mound. There are still quite a few games that still need to be played in the coming weeks. 2 games will be played Saturday the 13th. They will be played against William Woods University. These games will be played at 2 and 4 at American Legion Fields. Then on Sunday, the 14th, the team will be heading to Parkville, Missouri to play Park University at 1 and 3. Be sure to come cheer on our Stars.
I wish them luck in the upcoming games. Hopefully there'll be wins and they'll improve their record.
Me too, Danny. I find it inspiring that I am able to be the assistant coach this year.
Maybe for those juniors and seniors on the team, we'll have the chance to be a graduate assistant, that is, if they're sticking around.
That is true. And the retention rates at Stevens are actually improving over previous years. For example, Stevens has experienced recent increases in freshman to sophomore retention. At 74%, the 2011 freshman to 2012 sophomore retention rate has risen from 65%, a steady percentage in this category since 2008. According to Director of Institutional Research Isaac Tuttle, this percentage is significantly high for Stevens and the whole industry. The junior to senior retention rate is 85.1%. This retention rate shows more fluctuation than freshman to sophomore. Since 2008, the rate has changed from 85% to 100%, then came back down to 85% with a few changes in the mid to low 90s. Since 2008, the rate has always been at least 85%. The amount of students transferring from Stevens is about the same as last year. However, there is a student coming back to Stevens next semester who had previously transferred. To keep retention rates up, Stevens has a lot of resources such as the Stevens Success Center, Residence Life, and Student Services. Also, faculty committees gather to focus on advising, academic standing, and curriculum. Also, the faculty and student services staff are collaborating to develop a course for all incoming freshmen to guide their first-year experience.
Isn't that similar to the Student Success class that was required of all freshmen?
I'm sure it is, but it may be more than an academically rigorous course. Going from freshmen to seniors, a few students who started at Stevens 4 years ago were recruited to a swim team that went away their freshman year. Some stayed anyway, and for this we go to a report from Onnit's Emmalene Ragno.
So why was the swim team cut?
The swim team ceased to exist here because we had a fire in the pool. And the pumps all burned. It wasn't a fire like a blazing fire. It was an electrical fire, so all the wires melted. So really, to bring the pool back online, we would have had to replace all the pumping devices and the brine tanks. And it probably would have cost us close to $50,000 to bring that pool back online. So you would typically have somewhere between 7, maybe in a good year, 10 swimmers. And in addition to what it would have costed to bring the pool back online, then it also averaged out to about $50,000 a year to keep it operating by the time you filled it with water, kept the chemicals right, and of course the heat is pretty, it's a pretty huge cost to keep a pool like that heated. So you have to look at where you're going to get the best benefit from your students, and it certainly wasn't with the swimming team.
So what were the results? Were there a lot of people that switched schools that swam here?
No one switched schools. We only had about 3 or 4 women who were going to return for the next year, and one had 2 years left, and she will graduate in May, and those women were continued on those swimming scholarships just as if they were swimming every day. That's the only fair thing to do to a student who has no control over a sport being cut.
Yeah, of course. So did you hear anything about people's reactions after it was cut? Like, did it leave a sour taste in people's mouths, or did they seem to kind of understand?
Oh, I think people understand, but it always leaves a sour taste anytime you have to cut a sport. This is not the first time that I've been involved in an institution cutting a sport, and there are people who love their sport. And so always there is pain. I mean, and I don't like people to have to suffer in pain, but I like people to be passionate about what they do. And of course, they didn't like losing the swim team. Those of us that swam recreationally there, we didn't like losing the swimming pool either. But, sometimes there are decisions that have to be made for the best of the institution. And now, as it would turn out now, that building is slated to be sold, and we will not have access to it either after the end of May. So it would have been then or now.
Thanks, Emily. I wonder how this is going to affect parking on campus, which is, already pretty limited.
You're absolutely right. It's no secret that parking is a major frustration for students. With the sale of Hillcrest, the number of spaces become even more concerning. According to Deb Duren, nobody will know what this situation with the new spots will be until the sale is complete and a board meeting takes place. Architects arrived Wednesday evening and are leaving today. Duren tells us that they are going to discuss a campus plan and that Stevens will be much different next year than with 3 times as many people than we had 2 years ago. Duren said there will still be plenty of spots, but the locations of those spots are the setback. The garage across the street should be finished, and although it will cost more than a Stevens parking pass, students are welcome to pay to park there. The garage would also be clear out for Brookside residents that have been parking on the streets near campus.
All right, sticking with all things Stevens, we head down to Onnit's Angel Mendez with a report on how applying for housing went. Angel?
Right, guys, and one of the biggest changes this upcoming year, Stevens College will finalize the purchase of Columbia and Wood Hall by the end of May. Last week, I talked with Director of Residence Life, Ryan Smith, who said they wanted to be sure of the buyback before housing students in the apartments. That's why the housing lottery happened in the semester compared to previous years. Once Residence Life announced the lottery in mid-March, students had the course of a weekend to decide whether they wanted to stay in the same room or enter the lottery for a new one. Some students raised concerns about the time frame to respond, saying it was not enough time to find roommates and visit financial aid to compare housing options. But according to Smith, Residence Life believed the opposite, saying it was more than enough time.
I think all things considered, dealing with two new buildings that we don't have a lot of familiarity with, overall it went okay. I think, you're never going to please everyone, so we certainly had some people that were thrown off a little bit, maybe don't check their emails much, so they were maybe a little late to respond. But we carried the lottery process in terms of choosing a number on up until the very last minute to where students actually signed up for rooms. So there was certainly lots of opportunities for everyone to get their part in the housing.
Smith noted even more changes for campus life, including the expansion of pet floors in residential halls. Next year, Pillsbury will remain a pet-free dorm, while Searcy, Prunty, and the second floor of Tower will continue to allow pets. However, the third floor of Tower Hall will become the new honors floor and will also give students the option to house pets. Now, at this point, most students do have their housing plans finalized for next year, but if you don't, you should contact Smith by visiting the Student Services Office or emailing him directly at rsmith@stevens.edu. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Angel. Hopefully the process for sticking around campus for the summer is a little bit easier than it has been in the past years. For that, we go to Onnit's Lane Wallace for that story. Lane?
For those of you that just can't get enough of Stevens and plan on staying for the summer, here are the steps you need to take in order to do so. First, you must apply for an on-campus position in exchange for your room and board. Positions are currently posted on the Stevens website. Once you are hired, you must fill out all paperwork in Human Resources and speak with Ryan Smith so that you may be placed on the summer housing list. You must be hired and submit a student employment form to Smith by 5 p.m. on April the 16th. For any questions or concerns you might have, you can contact Amanda Roberts at aroberts@stevens.edu or Ryan Smith at rsmith@stevens.edu. This could be a great opportunity, you guys. Trust me, you don't want to miss out. Back to the news desk.
Thanks, Lane. Dang, too bad I'm graduating in May, or I would totally be interested in that position.
Yeah, hopefully our broadcast will help someone decide what to do over the summer and pick up an application.
Speaking of summer, let's kick it down to the Onnit Sam Geary for a weather update. I'm hoping for a lot warmer temperatures. Sam?
Thanks, guys. The weather has been wild coast to coast this week. California is experiencing wildfires and winds hitting high of 87 miles per hour, and the Midwest is prepping for tornadoes. Denver students got a snow day this week. In Columbia, the high today will be 51 degrees and partly cloudy. Saturday, you will see a high of 60 and mostly sunny. Sunday will reach a high of 72 degrees and sunny, so bring on the shades. For those headed to NYC, get out your rain boots because today it's 54 and raining. But don't fret, April showers won't last long because it will be 59 degrees and cloudy after the rain leaves. Sunday will be sunny and 58 degrees. For the happiest place on earth, Disney World, today will reach a high of 85 degrees and mostly cloudy. Tomorrow and Sunday we'll have scattered showers and a high of 84 degrees. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Sam. Along with this weather update is a public service announcement from Lane Wallace about staying safe during a tornado.
In the last few years, Missouri has seen a rise in tornado activity. This is due to its unfortunate position between the Great Lakes and the Gulf of Mexico. When the two fronts meet, one hot and one cold, it can be explosive. Before a tornado hits, there is often heavy rain or hail, followed by a quiet period. Although not scientifically noted, many who have experienced a tornado have claimed to see a greenish tint to the sky right before a tornado hits. You will see a strong movement in the clouds, although you're never going to feel the wind coming from it. If you hear a continuous roar, like thunder, but never ending, there's a tornado nearby. Some tornadoes do not have a funnel, so look for dust or debris circling at the cloud base. And at night, you might see small, bright, blue-green flashes of light close to the ground and a cloud base illuminated by lightning. There are some steps you can take when a tornado is coming to better protect yourself. If you're in a dorm or apartment, get to the lowest level. Avoid all windows and doorways, and if possible, get below a stairwell or find a bathtub, which can provide a shell of protection. If you're in class, go into an interior hallway and crouch down using your hands to protect the back of your head and neck. If you have time, grab a pillow or blanket to wrap around yourself to protect from falling debris. If you're outside, find a low-lying level on the ground and again, protect the back of your head and neck with your hands. Avoid buildings, cars, and trees as they could blow onto you. When preparing for a tornado, try to keep a safety kit handy, including a flashlight, a battery-powered radio, non-perishable food items, and a first aid kit. If you keep these tips and tricks in mind next time you hear those tornado sirens go off, you could keep yourself a little bit safer.
Well, that does it for us here at On It with Stevens Life. Be sure to check out our website for 24-hour access to all things Stevens. And don't be a stranger to our Twitter and Instagram feeds. Follow us at Stevens_Life. Until next week, I'm Danny Kelly.
And I'm Leslie Nilsson. Thanks for tuning in.
This show was produced by the Advanced News Writing and Production and Advanced Studio Production classes at Stevens College through the collaboration of Columbia Access Television and the Schools of Interdisciplinary Studies and Organizational Leadership and Strategic Communication.